NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg paid a visit to Budapest, Hungary, to get a confirmation that the country under Viktor Orban's command won't stand in NATO's way of providing support for Ukraine.
And so, to talk all things Hungary, we're joined by Mihály Rosonczy-Kovács, International Director at NATO Institute. I hope I didn't slur that name. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dziękuję. Always a pleasure, zaszczyt.
Pleasure's all ours. So, how would you describe the current Hungarian-NATO relations and also Budapest-Moscow relations?
The excerpts that were taken from this 20-minute long press conference, understandably, because these are basically the most currently the most interesting parts, showed where there are the differences. But it's important to know that the whole visit of the Secretary Stoltenberg and the press conference was about the commitment of Hungary's part in NATO. So Prime Minister Orban stated that Hungary, by the way also Poland, are among those few countries who comply to all commitment and fulfill all the commitment of NATO, like exceeding 2% of the GDP on defense expenditure, 20% of development targeting. And Mr. Stoltenberg himself praised Hungary for hosting a multinational headquarters center to lead a multinational battle group for alpolicing in Slovenia, Slovakia. More than 1,300 Hungarian soldiers are involved in different NATO mission, peacekeeping in Kosovo, and so on and so on. So basically the whole meeting was about to reassure the commitment. The position of Hungary, the differences are that the NATO is a defense alliance. So in order to be part of a mission that is outside of a NATO country, the partaking cannot be compulsory as stated in the treaties, but it's important that basically the negotiating sides found a way that basically Hungary will not block, so everyone can support and go as far as they want in a military aid. We know that I had the pleasure also to speak earlier that Hungary's position is not what they call, I won't even quote it, but it's just a different approach, a different tool approach of how to arrive to stop the Russian aggression. The strategical goals are the same. Prime Minister Orban stated it many times, also with Poland and Baltic states, to keep the Russian security threat as low as possible. And for this, we need a free, democratic, territory integral Ukraine. Hungary's position is that to arrive to this, we should rather strive to make the people sit to a table. But he understands that the overwhelming majority of the NATO's members are of a different position, and it was important to find the tools that neither the treaties are harmed, so Hungary can choose if they will to participate or not, nor the will of those members who want to go further in military aid is harmed. And also it's important to note that Mr. Stoltenberg also thanked to support the Ukrainian refugees and the wounded soldiers who are healed in Hungary.
Right. Ukrainians would probably say that it's hard to sit at the same table with someone who attacks you on a daily basis. But you didn't answer the question about relations with Russia, because I guess that the position of Budapest on Ukraine is slightly different because of its relations with Russia. So what are those?
The general, most important pillar of Hungary's foreign policies is connectivity. And there has been always dualism between the security issues and the commercial issues, energy, not only to Russia, the same app goes to China, Far Asia, and so on and so on. We, as Hungary, the country inherited from the Soviet regime burden that the Hungary energy need is very much exposed to Russia in many ways. Nonetheless, and also there is often said that Hungary has not done enough to diversify its needs and so on and so on. 6 out of 7 interconnectors are built during already the Orban regime, and we also contracted gas LNG from Kirk terminal, but unfortunately, for example, it wasn't Hungary who blocked back then the Nabucco project. So there has been always strives to diversify those needs. And also, if we look at with a bigger perspective, also it was an international press conference of Prime Minister Viktor Orban, and when he said that it was the key year was 2008, when on a Polish proposal, Ukraine could have been taken to NATO, because as Prime Minister Orban said it was 4th of April 2022. NATO was strong enough to take Ukraine in, and Russia was weak enough not to do anything else. But, says Orban, he realized that it was basically not, he didn't say it was the West who basically said that we don't want to take Ukraine. And then he said that I came to terms with the fact that Russia will somehow be part of the security architecture of Europe. And this was a leading path of the foreign policy to Russia. Obviously, the Russian aggression is a seizure, but one day to another, to cut all the ties with this energy need would just make the Hungarian economy break down. But also in this means, when we recall how the sanctions, for example, were adopted, often there are said that Hungary is vetoing. Basically, it's about anonymous decision making, so it's not possible to veto because these are areas where everybody has to agree. And I would rather focus on the fact that at the end, and also it's not only me or the Hungarians said, but for example, the group president of ECR party, Nicola Procaccini, that at the end, Hungary was always ready to find a way where the decisions will be taken, but at the same time, also this burden or the situation caused by these burdens would not cause a collapse of Hungary's interests and economy.
You mentioned just a second ago that Hungary is willing to try and find solutions, which leads me only this week, the beginning of this week, we saw the Bucharest 9 meeting taking place in Riga, and Mr. Orban was not there, so he did not give the grace to the Bucharest 8 at this point to talk to them about defense, to talk to them about the situation in the region, and he had Jens Stoltenberg come over to him. What do you think that says about how Hungary sees the cooperation within the region and the defense?
I think I'm saying it as an analyst, obviously. I'm not speaking in the name of government. But I think that these two events explain each other mutually. So basically, we got the answer by the arrival of Mr. Stoltenberg. So the same approach applied to the Bucharest meeting that I just depicted before, that Hungary understands that there are other members who want other solutions. We don't agree with them, but we don't want to make to be an obstacle in finding their ways to act outside the NATO. And we also, it's important to keep the strengths of a defense, because if you, for example, if you recall the Przewodowy incident, when there was an imminent danger that a NATO country, Poland, could have been attacked. Mm-hmm. And there were many prime ministers and presidents who assured Poland of their solidarity. Hungary assured of their full support. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said. So Hungary is committed to abide by all its obligations fixed in the treaty and fixed by our common history, and so on and so on. Sees as a danger of escalation, even to a world war, the path taken by other members, but understands that they are in majority, and understands that the voice of Hungary is not enough, and would not want to poison such decision making, and also to keep the possibility to react if God forbid, there would be a need in defense treaty. And as an analyst, I would also add that this also might be at a certain point useful in NATO communication, because basically we have one voice that could be, let's say, a leverage that if something happens, okay, that's the point when Hungary also says that this far and not further. That's how I see it.
Right. Now, this voice which you called not loud enough will be amplified because Hungary is to preside over the European Union in only a few weeks. So how do you think the European help for Ukraine, I'm not talking about NATO now, I'm talking about the EU obviously, will look like under Hungary's presidency?
This will be the only presidency where basically the same government runs the presidency for the second time. Because in 2011, it was not the same government, but it was the same, let's say, governing people around Viktor Orban. And many times they stated by spokesperson Zoltán Kovács that Hungary back then and also now wants to be a very professional presidents, and the role of the presidency is not to force your agenda or your way of looking at certain portfolios, but to give space to a democratic debate. So I don't think in this respect the fact that Hungary is presiding the EU will have an effect. We also saw that regarding the help on Ukraine, a similar solution was found, basically that Viktor Orban went for a coffee when the others could find a solution, and especially that now it's stated that Fidesz would like to join ECR, presided by Giorgia Meloni, and we know that the Law of Justice has a high representance in this party. Both of the parties are more committed, let's say, peacefully. Fratelli d'Italia in the middle, committed to help with Ukraine. I don't think that the Hungarian presidency will have an effect on this. It will. There are priorities, as every presidency, for example, the security of the Balkan states and also the EU enlargement towards the Balkan states as well.
Do you think that
Yeah, go on.
Do you think that the results of the recent EU parliamentary elections are going to change the way in which Hungary is trying to present itself, the government as of now? Are they going to try and take that chance to perhaps maybe shift gears a little bit, or we are still going to hear voices from the EU saying that Hungary is the enfant terrible of the European Union?
Yes, we see that these enfants terribles became more and more and have bigger and bigger representatives. If we look also the Le Pen's party, Marine Le Pen's used to be called an enfant terrible, and we could name more, Chega from Portugal, Vox from Spain, even Giorgia Meloni before they won. If you will recall that Ursula von der Leyen do we have the means of if the elections go wrong? No. My hope, I can say, maybe it's not an analyst's but way of expression, but my hope is that the true face of Hungary's EU policy will be put, especially if they can join ECR. As Giorgia Meloni said, it's not. It's according to her to call certain parties European and the others anti-European on the grounds whether they support a federative Europe vision or not is not fair, according to her, because Orban states this many times that we Hungarians are passionate about Europe, but the vision is, as the viewers probably know, is a vision of Europe of nations. By the way, but what also Mr. Marek Sawicki stated in the inaugural session of the new parliament, that we want to leave the EU as it is, to focus the integration where it brings about competitivity, not to leave the integration per se, but to focus where it can bring about potentials in economy, and to bring back Europe to a global scale where it's not a bureaucratic giant, but it's a bureaucratic theoretic, let's say, small creature, but a political giant. So I hope that a true and the democratic debate will be able to run by these forces. Also, let me again quote Viktor Orbán, because these quotes are not amplified in the media, that the debate itself between those forces who want a federative Europe and the Europe of nations is a sound one. So it always brings about fruits if this debate is run on an equal level. From a Hungarian point of view, and the point of view of the Hungarian right, or yes, as I call sovereignist Europeist point of view, is that those forces who see Europe to become an imperium, or see that it will bring about more fruits, try to completely silence those voices. We saw that in April, a national conference, NetCon, was suspended with MEPs, with ex-prime minister, just because they were speaking about Christian traditions and the need of nation. So through the fact that these forces like Marine Le Pen, Giorgia Meloni got more power, and if Fidesz joined, we can hope that this voice will not be muted, and it can bring about fruits also to those voters of the European nations who are not seeing Europe the same way, but believe in democracy.
And we'll have to put a full stop here. Mihály Rosonczy-Kovács, International Director of NATO Institute, was our guest tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us.